And now, Kyle and Steven present another episode of the Go F Yourself podcast. It's Fix. Really? Well, that's embarrassing. The Go Fix Yourself podcast.
Oh, welcome to the Go Fix Yourself podcast, the podcast where two guys, we're just on a journey of learning and fixing what we don't know. And I'm one of those guys, Steven, and sitting next to me, he's looking very earthy tones today. He's
looking homely.
I think I said this last podcast, but he's trying to be hip. He's gotten even hipper than last podcast, which is, I don't even know how that's possible. It's Kyle Redding.
I'm doing like the Benjamin Button. As I get older,
you're good.
I'm getting younger.
Yeah.
That's kind of my goal is I hope to look as good as at 50 as our previous guest, Matt Schultz did.
Yeah.
That guy did not, I was like, I might be older than him.
Yeah. Are you doing a skincare routine or anything?
I'm actually doing the opposite of care. I'm doing nothing but damage to my body. I just cut my hair for the first time yesterday in 2 months.
Show it off. Show off to the cameras. Let me see. I went
short.
No wonder you're wearing a hat right now.
I always wear a hat. That's why I got it short. Okay. Don't make fun of me.
Oh.
It's gone.
That doesn't look too bad.
So,
How do you feel? Do you feel confident when you're walking around?
My hairline's receding. I am going downhill quick.
Yeah.
But it's okay because that's the beauty of life.
Yeah,
that's what I hear.
And talking about a beauty, man, I'm excited about our guest tonight. Man, that was a good segue.
Yeah.
That was I don't know. I'm not the best at segues, but that was damn good. We've known our guest today for a long ass time.
I gotta assume going close to a decade.
It has to be.
Yeah, I mean,
I was on my way here and today too, before we were recording, I was like, okay, so, just thinking about the moments that the three of us have spent together, making videos, cuddling up and watching movies.
Yeah.
Lying in bed, just the real fun moments.
I was going to say mainly the videos, but yes.
Mainly the
that's
videos.
What I remember.
And then, let's just bring them on. Please welcome to the Go Fix Yourself podcast for the first time, DJ Spencer Lee.
Hey, what's up, guys? Great to be here.
Hey,
He's
man.
looking Dapper Dan over here.
You showed up in a suit because you just had a gig.
I did have a gig, yeah.
Yeah, so you're pulling double duty. And so I was surprised. I was like, damn, dude, we could have rescheduled. It's exhausting going from, I don't know how long your gig was.
It's a couple hours.
Yeah, and then going straight into this and talking to us two hobos, making us, look. I was like, damn, should we be wearing suits every time?
I know. He probably walked in and was like, what did I sign up for?
I knew that on the drive down.
Yeah.
We've known each other long enough. Expectations are pretty low. So that's good.
I was trying to think, what are the first memories that we shared together? How did we even meet? Was it through just Willowa stuff?
Yeah, I think so in video.
I think so too. It was I think when I started doing concert stuff and then we did the Spinard prom video. I was vlogging at that time.
I think it was even before that actually. Did you guys talk about your men's grooming product line on here?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Cut and Caliber, yeah.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace. Never see the light of day ever again. But maybe though. I do, I still get people hitting me up you don't happen to have it.
That gave me cancer.
And, oh God.
Stuff like that.
No, it won't. If you have it still, it won't. And if you had it, it won't.
It was all natural.
It was all natural. It was organic. Organic.
I had that pomade. I loved it.
Yeah. And it's funny because I still get hit up by people and then all those memories keep flooding back to me. And so I think this, very nostalgic having you here and we're very excited because you're back, baby.
I am. Yeah.
You're back. Okay. And so before we get into the whole you're back and,
besides you just said it.
What you did. Right. Well, I mean, why? What happened, right? Why he's back. So we do this thing. My parents live in New York. Mm-hmm. They don't know who we know.
Sure.
They think we're, we don't have any friends, and they think we're losers. And so just introduce yourself to my parents, Rick and Carol, in New York.
Sure.
And just give them like a elevator pitch.
The elevator pitch, sure. My name is Spencer Schroyer. I'm known as DJ Spencer Lee. I was born and raised in Homer, Alaska. I've been DJing in Alaska for about 21 years at this point.
Damn.
My background's journalism, public relations, marketing, communication, and I like to play records and have a good time.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a record? You actually create around records?
The Vinyl King?
I do a couple times a year. I'll do vinyl gig. It's a great excuse to buy records all year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm around 5,000 pieces of vinyl.
Wow. That's more than I could probably fit in my entire house. Where do you keep them all?
You don't have to tell us specifically where, because it's probably a secret.
Yeah, well, a lot of them are in my house, or depending on what's going on, some of them are in and out storage.
Oh man, that's a lot. I have 12, and it's getting up there.
So I don't know anything about vinyl per se, but is there a condition you have to keep them in to work properly, or if they
humidified room,
stuff that? Is it like a disc?
Just think about just like a CD, right?
Right.
It's not a laser reading it; it's a needle. So
right.
You don't want too much dust or your grooves to get dirty, and
you got to keep the grooves
tracks.
clean. Yeah.
Okay, and then so one of the things I was thinking about today was the first time I remember seeing the name DJ Encyclopedia Brown.
Oh boy.
I was on Pure Volume. Do you remember that?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, Pure Volume was the MySpace before MySpace.
SoundCloud
but
before.
SoundCloud, yes, thank you.
It's old school SoundCloud.
Oh,
it was all.
I was on Friendster before MySpace.
It was all about music, and so people would put music up, and so I was a little musician and trying to put music up, and I think it was shows someone was posting about, and it was with DJ Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I was probably fresh to Alaska, and I was like, who is this DJ Encyclopedia? I think I clicked on the poster, and there you were sitting with maybe vinyl records around you or something.
Yeah.
Does that ring a bell? Did you have yellow pants on?
No, I don't.
Was yellow shirt? There was something yellow in the poster. I do remember that.
I had a yellow jumpsuit for a while.
I was going to say a jumpsuit.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Of course you did.
If I didn't have a Halloween costume, I would just wear this yellow jumpsuit and then jump and be look, banana split, and do the splits. Yeah.
You did the split?
Well,
you attempted the splits.
Yeah. What a crowd pleaser I bet that was.
Don't make me do it again.
That's probably what I would try. I was if I'm losing the crowd, fuck, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Split time.
I'm going to try to do the split.
Yeah.
First time.
Never done them in my entire life. And I'm going to do it in front of a crowd of 500. Because that's what I'm DJing. I'm DJing in front of 500
naturally.
people.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back and just give us a little synopsis of your life. A little, if your life was a movie.
Sure.
Give us a kind of a rundown of how you got to 2020. And then we'll kind of pick up there.
Okay.
And so how you got into DJing, I'm very curious because I think that's a fun thing to learn, how people got into their craft, and then how you got into gigs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it.
Growing up, we had a lot of records around the house, and my dad played guitar, but not very well. So we're good at listening to music in my family, I think I would say, right? And so always had a big shelf of records and always listening to music. And then when I was in high school, I worked at a record store in Homer called Solstice Music. And so I wasn't on vinyl yet, but I was buying CDs, right? And just consuming music. And I could talk about it kind of academically, but the real crux of it is I just love music. So it was collecting music and finding out as much as I could about music, reading the liner notes. Oh, so-and-so made this album. I'm going to buy another album by it. Things like that. So that was it. And then I had a wildland firefighting gig out of Soldotna one summer. And I made great money. And I was like, I'm buying turntables.
How did you do that first gig? Was it an MP3 player? No, you didn't even have was it CD player?
No, I wasn't
tapes
playing out until I had turntables.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Right. So yeah, my first gig was Alice's Champagne Palace.
Hey,
yeah,
hell yeah,
and all vinyl. So it was the thing about vinyl is you can only play what you have.
Right.
Right. So what I got is what you're gonna get.
It's 5 hours of the same record.
Well, or it's a weird mix of back then it was Stevie Wonder records that I found at a thrift store and cool underground rap that I liked, right? So
yeah,
particularly cohesive.
Okay.
Right?
I'm sure diving into DJing, first off, I've said this before on here. We had DJ Gray on, and I was like, I did one DJ like performance. I guess I was hired as a DJ once, and I didn't have turntables. I had a software on my computer, and I played the wrong Cupid Shuffle because I downloaded it on iTunes because I didn't have it.
Sure.
I downloaded the remix, and I was like, and everybody stopped and turned to me, and like, I was like, sorry. Yeah. So I was like, never again. I can't do it. It's first off, it's putting yourself out there. And then, but also like, spinning and like making sure people hear what you want to hear, like what they want to hear.
Right.
I can't do it. I don't know how you do it. And so how did you find yourself getting better and better and better and just being like, yeah, give me another shot, Alice's like,
yeah,
Stevie Wonder's not all I got.
I bought some new ones.
Yeah.
Well, I moved up here. I was going to college up here. So I came back up and I went to Bernie's, rest in peace, Bernie. And I was like, Bernie, I think I can do music for you here. And this was before a lot of it was built. It was just a big lawn and you'd play bocce ball out there. And like, he set me up outside and he said, we'll give you a trial. And I played funk records that I had and like weird rap records that I had. And he was like, okay, you're hired. We'll give you $100 in a tab. And I was like,
oh,
bet,
hell yeah.
So
Dude.
yeah, that was it.
Dude. Okay. Wow. That's dating yourself a little bit. Just a lawn at Bernie's.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was 2002.
Okay.
So
a while ago.
Might have been 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. Got him in 2002 in winter. By summer 2003, I was
and then you were
Bernie's.
DJ Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah. And so that name was like I fancied myself a bit of a know-it-all, right? It's a know-it-all name. And I
love it.
So that's what I called myself. And honestly, I didn't know anybody else who really DJ'd, except for the homie Sam, DJ Livingston. And so we DJ'd together. But I didn't think anything seriously would come of it. So it was a jokey name because it was like, this is playing records for people. It's fun, right? And I knew of DJs, of course, who did it professionally, but I just didn't aspire to do that. And I didn't think that was achievable. So it was a jokey name, yeah.
So it wasn't like you weren't seen as like a business back then. You were just seen as like, this is a hobby. This is like something.
Yeah, I was definitely a hobbyist because I was still going to school and what I wanted to do was be a journalist. And this was something I did fun on the weekends.
So when you are going to college and like all this stuff that's kind of pre-YouTube era that we have now where we can look up. I know like YouTube's not relatively that old.
Sure.
In terms of like all the videos that are out there because
this was pre-internet, right? I'm just kidding.
This was pre-so. But what I'm saying is like when you were in 2003, there's not like a trillion DJ videos online to show you how to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like,
good question, Kyle. I know where you're going.
How do you feel? Like, how'd you feel that out getting good at that? Was it just kind of like talking to another DJ, like you said, Sam, or I mean, were you the first Google search for like DJ videos and stuff like that?
Right. Well, the thing about DJ is like it's music, so you can listen.
Right.
So you listen to other DJs mixes, right, and then you try to kind of figure out what they're doing and how you could do that, and then you're playing around and like happy accidents happen, and I can make this noise this way, or this is how I think they do that, and you kind of come up with your own approximation of what you think other people are doing, or honestly, what sounds good to you.
Yeah.
Right, and then you're like, I've been working all this all week. I'll take this out this weekend and see if it resonates with people. And either it does, and yes, I got that, or it's back to the drawing board, right?
It's kind of like stand-up comedy in a way. You might bomb when you're trying out some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And like, you're
That's
like,
good.
I know this is going to hit. We're right here. And then nobody responds to it. And then you're like, got to take that back to the drawing board.
Sure.
Man, what kind of pressure that? I mean, that's some pressure. You're in college. So you're trying to impress the ladies, all that stuff. I know that game.
Well, I think the thing about it too in those early days is like, and this gets to the kind of the core of your question, like kind of a quote unquote journey is like early on, you're playing records that you want to hear.
Right.
Right.
Versus
and then you kind of turn a corner where you say, I want to play records that I think other people want to hear. Right. And some DJs get there and some DJs don't ever do that because they would just rather play for themselves. But that's kind of part of it. It's like figuring that out. And then it's like, okay, what works for me, but what works for them? And I enjoy playing records that I like, but I also enjoy playing records that other people like. And I get off on that. So how can I figure out how to do both? Right. Yeah. Or also just like, what do I want to focus on? And some gigs are more about what you want to hear. And some gigs are about what everybody else wants to hear. And mostly it's the latter.
So having your ear kind of a very broad attraction to all sorts of music kind of helps with that because you're able to see like, if you go to a rock crowd versus you can kind of feel out what those people want to hear. Because if you put me in a situation like, hey, Kyle, name a funk band. I wouldn't know where to begin, couldn't name one. Just not a genre I listen to. So you kind of have to be, I'm flawed too, okay? But I'm just saying, like, you have probably a wide scope of genres that you're very familiar with.
Well, and that's kind of why I got into DJing again, to go back to
Yeah,
it's like
all
I love,
music.
Yeah, I love it all. So, yeah, that's true. And it's figuring out what people will dance to. And then if you're reading a crowd, part of it is like, they like this, so they'll probably like this, right? So that's building on that association. Yeah.
So that's another thing too. I think the whole like on the fly, it's like, you made the correlation to stand-up comedians. And then even like a band has a set list. You don't. And so that's another thing too that like scares me. And like that plays into like more of like your confidence as a DJ. It's like DJs have to just like be like, okay, that hit. Okay, that didn't. So no more of that. Limp Bizkit, they love it, clearly. So I'm going to play, Rollin' next. Yeah. And
so you were Spotify suggested before it was.
Yeah. It's a good.
I mean, that's a big part of it too, right? And you try to figure out some crowds you can play new records for. Some crowds you have to play old records for, right? And then it's like, and then obviously there's absolutes, but there's also, I'm playing what you guys know, and I'm going to sneak one in you don't know if it's thematically similar, right? Like all those kind of things.
Yeah, it's a very like keep you on your toes. You can't get like wasted and like DJ. I mean, you could. You obviously you could. I mean, yeah, it sounds fun, but I just feel like it would like especially if you have a crowd and they're all like wanting to move, you're like, oh, I got to be on my game tonight. And Limp Bizkit again. Yeah, that's what I would just do.
That's what I was thinking is, and we'll get through your journey, I promise. But there's a few things like I always think about like you're playing chess essentially during a set. Like you're a couple steps ahead. Like how many songs ahead are you? Or you? Because I imagine when a song is kind of ending, like you got to have something in the queue already, or there would be silence, which I'm assuming is a killer in a set. Yeah. So. Are you like 2 songs ahead, or like do you have some kind of like buffer zone that you like to operate within?
It's not uncommon to be a couple songs ahead, for sure. You should be, and but also you're thinking about what's working, like I said, and reading the crowd. And then it's not uncommon to have like what you might call like a set piece in soccer, right? Like a couple little plays that go together. So you might know I'm gonna get into this little bunch of 5 or 5 records, right? Like a little mixed set, and then I'll come out of that and maybe I'll jump into another one, or maybe I'll come out of that and play this record, and depending on how that works, I'm going to go in a different direction, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so you work this out all, I mean, somewhat beforehand. Do you have kind of like a diagram of like if things go bad, go over here, and I'm going to play these 5 songs?
Yeah, I would imagine like a theme night, like you've done, or like Willowa, like 90s or whatever. Like you have to have like, all right, I'm going to play these top hits, and you probably have like a folder, I would imagine. But like for like a random, like tonight, like you had an event and people just want to like have background music or dance or whatever. Do you have like that go-to set?
Well, you've got different crates and subfolders of music arranged by genre usually, or like what might be a warm-up crate and what might be a primetime crate, right? So you've got those, and like, yes, I do have stuff separated by decade and by genre, so I can get in and out of those. But more than anything, honestly, it's just a challenge of looking at the crowd, trying to figure out what they want. And that keeps you engaged, right? And because the goal is keep them engaged in dancing. So ideally, you're looking at them, trying to read their feedback and figuring out what they might like. And then when you try something, see if it works or not, right? And just kind of I'm not going to use the word journey again. I guess I am in quotes, right? But like, you know what I mean? Like, because you're playing for them, and that's the dynamic, right? You're feeding off their energy. They're feeding off yours.
Right.
You're kind of trying to keep them entertained, right?
Yeah. So how much are you listening to? How much music now, like nowadays, like, sorry.
You're good.
Like, are you just constantly like, going through Spotify hot tips or whatever, hot songs?
I'm constantly listening to music, again, just because I love it. And yes, getting ideas for stuff to DJ, but and charts when I need to figure out like, what's
this song's hitting.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Interesting. I feel like that's another reason I'm not a DJ. I don't listen to that much music anymore. I listen to my like tried and true, and it's mostly metal. I can metal a DJ night. Or I could DJ a metal night for sure.
Yeah, you just don't love music enough, I think is what it is.
Yes, so. That's so sad.
What a
okay, so let's get back on track really quick. And then we don't have to go too far deep into this, but like, you're DJing. When did it become a business? And then when did that transition to DJ Spencer Lee happen?
Yeah, after about 10 years.
Oh. Wow. So
Yeah.
you were really going hard for a while.
Well, and it was on weekends, and it was something fun to do, like I said, while I was going to school or while I was working. And
Were you passing out flyers to like girls and people and just being like, yo, I'm DJing Bernie's. Yo, I'm DJing Bernie's.
sure, a little bit of that. I started
Guerrilla
dating my
marketing.
wife pretty early on, so like I wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and then other DJs also
Or guys too.
Sure.
You know, just people in general.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah. I do a little of that, and figuring out like as I was getting into journalism and understanding marketing and promotion. Because the other thing too is like while I'm listening to music and trying to figure out what other DJs are doing, I'm also looking at their marketing and figuring out what are they doing there, right?
Stealing.
So yeah,
like an artist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and like
Putting your own spin on it.
I like to say that, you know, I think the things that make people the most successful are sometimes the most visible, right? So they're out there to see, like, you just have to look at them and figure out, you know. So yeah, just consuming that and saying, I like that the way that person brands themselves or carries themselves or does these kind of events and like kind of, you know, figuring that out.
I love that. And then, so you made a name for yourself in the Anchorage market,
Sure.
Alaska market, I would say. Because you're doing it full time. And then 2020 hits. So like this is the kind of the pivotal moment. I'm like, you know, I said in the beginning, like, you're back, baby.
Yeah.
What happened during 2020? And then now what has led to this, you know, now you're back doing gigs.
Yeah. Well, obviously the COVID pandemic hit. I've got twin boys. And
who are freaking awesome. And they like know their bird. Get this. So me and Spencer, sorry to derail.
Sidebar, yeah.
Your boys, I just want to like sing their praises for a second. So we went down to Westchester. For those people who aren't familiar, it's like a little lake. You can walk around it, coastal trail. And you guys had this bird book, and you guys are birders.
Yeah.
And they were like, Dad, is that a English red-breasted warbler or whatever? Like, they knew every bird, and they were like, seen it before. And then you specifically, you would like hear it, and you'd be like, I think that's a so-and-so. And then you have this app where it would be like, you could record it, and then it would be like, oh, and then you got it right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So first off, your boys are very, very smart.
Thank you.
And so anyway, you have two twin boys.
Yeah. And they obviously schools closed because it's COVID, right?
Right.
So I'm hanging out with them, and I'm not gigging because the only emails I'm getting are cancellation gig.
Yeah.
You know? And so did that, and then they went back into school. And actually, we hired a tutor at one point, right? Just because before schools were even open, right? Because that transitional phase. And I was like, if I'm not working and I'm not teaching my kids, I should probably go get a job and make some money.
Yeah.
So again, my background, I have a journalism degree from UA. I worked in public relations for a year. And so I went back and got a job, and I did that. I had a couple jobs up until August. And then it was like the pandemic had faded enough in the background that it seemed like a good opportunity to get back into DJing. And that's kind of where that other chapter starts.
Yeah. Which I'm excited because I don't know, as someone who, because my background is like, you were one of my first like returning clients for my business, right? And it's like, we did Spinard Prom, Jams for Fams, which we'll get into some more of what those events are and were and how you branded them. And then like getting a job, like that's tough. Was it tough? What was that like?
No, it wasn't.
You were just like, this is an easy decision. I need to do this.
Yeah, I wrestled with it a little bit, but going, I think people are like, whoa, was it hard to go back into the corporate workforce? And to me, it wasn't, because that's just a different skill set. Like that's just a different.
You've been there. You've been there before. Yeah. I got that.
So you know the formula. You know what the expectations are.
Nice.
Going into it.
Are you playing music in the office? Turning up the speakers? Hey, everybody, this one's a good one. Just a heads up.
This one goes out to you, Bill. Happy 50th.
Yeah, that would be cool. The office DJ.
Dude, that's a video idea.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll do a video idea with Spencer Lee. That would be really fun. Okay. And so now we're, 3 years after the pandemic, and now you're back, you're like the Men in Black. You're back, baby.
Sure.
You're like, how does that feel to be like,
It's
I'm
great.
back again.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you guys know what it feels like to be able to pursue a passion,
Yeah.
right? And it's depending on where the stage you're at. Sometimes it's a side hustle, or I'm giving so much amount of time and energy into it, and so to be able to go back and do it and put the bulk of my time and energy into it,
Oh yeah.
feels great.
I know it's exciting. And even when you like texted, you're like, hey, I'm leaving next month. And I was like, yeah, congratulations. You're like, I haven't done it yet. I was like, but it's happening. I was like, that's pretty cool. And that's a good feeling from like, because I was like, is he ever going to DJ again?
Right.
Was there that question in your mind? You're like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the challenge is capacity, right? And so like, if I'm DJing, I want to do a good job DJing.
Mhm.
If I'm working a corporate job, I want to do a good job at that corporate job,
Right.
right? So figuring out, you can't do both, right? I mean, somebody could, but maybe not a guy who's married and with kids, right? Like it would get real crunchy on time. So it was just, that's why I had to pause that, because I was like, I need to focus on this until I can focus on that. And so, yeah, in the back of my mind, it was always trying to figure out ways to get back into it. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that
you
I
were
was
scheming.
giving the people that I was working for, like, I wasn't half-assing it. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah. I remember, we talked about it. I think we went to lunch one time in the beginning, and you seemed like you were like, oh, I got ideas. I want to do this. We talked about video ideas. And so I was like, shit, yeah, he's still being creative. And now, like, for me, that's like, if I ever jump into, a world, like I'm not my own boss anymore, which could happen potentially soon, is like, I want to still be creative.
Sure.
I still want to be thinking, grinding those gears. And so I was like, okay, so he's got that, which is kind of cool because some corporate jobs don't. And so that was like, I don't know how, I hope he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool that you were able to do that too. And so, okay, let's talk about now that you're back and now what you're getting into and what you're working towards.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about Spinard Prom, which is it ever going to come back?
Yeah, I talked to him about it. I don't have everything completely dialed enough to like talk about it, but like definitely want to. Yeah.
Let's talk about that because the three of us, we collabed on a video and it's somewhere out there.
It is out there. It's come across my social media
Has it?
time or two.
So it's on Facebook and maybe we'll have to post it.
Because it was Valentine's Day or right before
it was.
Yeah.
It was
before.
It was one of our first videos that we made like together. Technically, like it was like I think we might have done like, did we? No, I think it was. I think Spencer brought us together and we started doing like funny videos, and so this one was at Diamond Tux Rental, and we were getting tuxes for Spinard Prom, which was happening like the next week, and so you did this whole spiel and we did funny things in the background. Kyle did like, I don't know,
he was
silly.
like my assistant.
Yeah, and like holding up the sheet for like the picture and then bringing it down.
Yeah.
And then like
off the hat.
And then we got the best looking tuxes from there.
Yeah, we were stunting.
Dude, we had like, I was in blue and you were in red and we had like the ruffles and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude, we went to Spinard Prom that next week, and I was like,
a lot of looks.
Oh man,
looks.
Oh baby,
yeah. And we took our prom picture together.
We did. It's got to be somewhere out there.
I mean, I got them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
We should post that too. We'll post a bunch of the Spinard Prom stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think that was like the first, the three of us like kind of like bonding and doing stuff. Yeah, full collaboration. But now you have another thing, which is Jams for Fams.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your baby right now.
Sure. Let me give a little Spinard Prom context just for fun.
Okay.
It started off as a party somebody else was doing, not me, at the Taproot. And I always liked the name and I thought it was clever. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, because I'm never going to rip something off from somebody else. I know people do this in this town. That's not my.
Oh yeah, I've done it.
I'm
going
to have a conversation with you. Hey, this is a great idea. It's not happening anymore. And like, do you mind? Right. And I got his blessing. And so I was like, here we go. And some people call it a second chance prom, but it's basically a chance to get dressed up, which I don't feel like we have enough of in this town.
Yeah.
And go out and have a good time. And so that was it. And it was really built on the success of Jams for Fams, which is my all ages family dance party, which I was doing at the Beartooth, and it was successful enough. It was like, why don't you try and do something for adults?
Yeah.
So that one started out as a party called Baby Loves Disco, which is a national party I franchised for Alaska. And after a year or so, I was like, I'm just going to rebrand this and make it my own, because I thought I needed a name to make people come to it. And people were like, Spencer, we're here because this is your party.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to flip it up and make it all my own and come up with like the creative and the name and all that. And that's fun. That's a fun challenge. That's rewarding for me. Right. And so that's it. And I do those 5 times a year. I do a 2-session Halloween, which is coming up October 22nd. And then I try to do them like Spin Our Prom right around the holiday. So it's thematic, but like not on it.
Right.
So Neon Love is around Valentine's Day. I do a December Pajama Jam.
Hell yeah.
And then I do a Easter Bunny Hop. Right.
Yeah.
So
you're a busy boy during that time.
yeah. And I design it to be like kind of shoulder season, right? There's nothing in the summer, which is when I was doing a ton of weddings.
Oh, that's a
super
good point.
busy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, what's my off season thing?
Yeah, you're not doing like a July 4th. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know. I think it's kind of like a cool idea. And I think like when you see stuff like this in Alaska, you're like, hell yeah. It's different. It's like something like, you would see in like New York or bigger cities or whatever. And it's like, obviously, like you want to go to that and you do a good job, right? You're not just like being like, all right, well, we're going to turn like the fluorescent lights on and then play some music out of a boombox. It's like you do it like for kids, you're doing like the whole lights, like everything, LED walls, and you have DJs and gifts. And so let's talk about the branding of Jams for Fams, because that's something I'm interested in. Okay. And like you said, that's something you really like to do. Right. And so what's your process there?
Sure. So I think I had a boss at the Daily News tell me one time, I was like, I got this great idea. And he's like, I don't care about ideas. I care about execution. Right. So that's how I look at a lot of these, because sometimes you'll talk to somebody, they're like, I got this amazing idea. And it's like, can you execute it? And can you execute it the way you want, and the way that, for me, like represents what I want to accomplish, right?
No.
So
that's my answer. Generally.
So that's what it was. It was like, okay, this is a family dance party for kids, but like, what do I want that to look like? And what do I want people to come away thinking? Because honestly, it's all just a branding exercise for me. Like, I want you to come to this party and be like, I had a great time. I had an amazing time. Spencer knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's it. And so for me, it's like, what do those elements look like? And I've been like a plugged in vendor at a lot of parties. So I've been able to see what works, what doesn't, what I like, what I don't think works as well, right? So how can I take what I think works the best and bring that to my event? That was really the genesis of it. So I'm like, I got to have cool art. I got to have cool vendors doing photo, video, etc. I want to make it, another corny word, we're not going to, immersive, right? I want you to walk through those theater doors and be like, this doesn't feel like the Beartooth, right? I want to have the same production value or better than other events there. Yeah. So that like, I'm not phoning it in just because it's for parents and kids. I want them to be like, yo, this is wild.
Yeah. And you want them to come back.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, we got another one coming up. I think it's kind of fun to talk about events and stuff like that, because it's like, I don't know, like I said, you don't see it. You have like your own pockets, people's pockets, of Anchorage and like doing events and whatnot. But I just think it's kind of cool. Like, oh, a dance party for kids. Yeah. It's like, that's a unique idea. And I think it's kind of cool. And I've been to a bunch of them and they're like packed too. It's like all these kids, for the Halloween one.
Crazy.
Dressed up.
Sugared up.
Kyle's going to take his kid.
I honestly.
Are you going to be in town actually?
Yeah, I should be. And so, the Jams for Fams thing. A couple years ago, I was like, I don't really see why I'd go to that. And now my toddler is obsessed with dancing. And I'm like, there is nothing that she would probably love to do more than dress up like a mermaid or a rainbow and go dance for hours. I'm sure she'd sleep like, sign me up. So I'm like, that's genius, because parents are always looking for ways to wear their kids out and something cool, because everything is either I need to get a babysitter, we can't ever go out because, it's not kid friendly or something. And this is specifically for kids, but the adults can it's like a Pixar movie. It's like for the kids, but it's also jokes enough for the adults.
Yeah. I like that analogy.
Yeah. That's why I love Pixar now. But
yeah, you probably watch a lot of Pixar.
Too much.
Yeah.
And that was part of my thinking, honestly, was like, I've been to events where my kids had a good time.
Right.
I'm miserable. Yeah. I've been to events where I'm having a great time and my kids are miserable. Like, let's split the difference. Let's figure it out. And that's kind of what I try to do.
And so what would you say draws the adults? Like, what's the aspect that you try to pitch towards them as an event like this? Is it the music, or is it just trying to create an environment where everybody's kind of having fun, or is there specific things you do?
Yeah, I think it's all of that. It's also like, we'll have fun. We're going to have some pizza and beer. at the Beartooth. Who doesn't love that, right?
Kids are definitely loving that.
Yeah. And then also like having that cool multimedia element where like a lot of people at the Pajama Jam in December, like I've got a professional photographer. I've got Carrie Tasker taking photos, right? I put them all up on Facebook. People will put those photos on their Christmas card.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's a cool, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
capture it and like, you know, I'm doing that work for them. I'm happy to do it, right? And celebrate them at the event. Like I think people like that too.
Yeah.
Nice.
It is a good, you do well put together event. And just being one guy, it's like, I can only imagine. I can only imagine. Okay.
Great song.
So now that
you don't know Christian, what would you call that?
Mercy Me, I think was it Mercy Me?
Contemporary Christian music is kind of not your forte, I get.
I was big into it. Anyway, so now that we got the umbrella of what you do and where you've been, how you been?
I'm great, man.
Yeah?
Great. Yeah.
Honestly, it's good to have you here. And so I'm just like wondering, like, have you been full force recently? You've been just super busy?
Yeah. 2 gigs this week, 3 last week, 4 the week before. So yeah, it's the ramp up has been working, and like I love playing records. I love being busy, so it's great.
Do you like, and this is another thing too. I'm always wondering, like, are you needing to like promote yourself to get out there, or is like now that people are like, oh, Spencer Lee's back. Oh, I got this event. So like people hear you and they're like, so you don't have to put yourself out there as much?
I think work gets you more work, right? Is something that, you know, that people talk about. But I also think, you know, even Coke advertises, right?
Right.
So like, I think it's about being top of mind and about being in different channels and touching people, you know, through different channels.
I love the pause. The pause was great.
Where is he going?
We were both on our seats, like touching people. I'm in.
So, you know, you might come to jams and see me there, and maybe that's a demographic that doesn't go to Willowall, right?
Right.
So how can I check different boxes and make sure, you know, and then there's another group that maybe doesn't go to either. So like maybe I made a mix and they heard it on the radio, right? So like, how can I do those different things to make sure that then people think I'm going to have a party, I need a DJ. Oh, I'm going to call Spencer, right? Or sometimes people even go, I want to call Spencer, I'm going to have a party, right? I love that too.
I'm just going to have Spencer over. It's not going to be a party. It's just going to be me and my wife in my house and Spencer Lee.
Let's do it.
That'd be another funny video. What is it like being back? And I mean, you were doing this before COVID and all that too, but like the dad aspect.
Yeah.
So that adds, like, you know, like I said, we had DJ Gray on here, and like he's able to, you know, schedule out his day how he wants it.
Yeah.
And doesn't want to work these days, and, you know, and he can sleep in. How does that kind of play into being a dad and a DJ with late nights
And a husband.
and a husband?
Yep.
It's all.
Yeah.
Shout out to Grant. Shout out to the homie Gray, because he's super talented, and I love him, and I love when I'm not able to do something to hand it off to him, because I know he'll do a great job.
Yeah. He's one of the DJs you actually hire for Jams for Fams.
Yep.
Too. Yeah. Which is like top tier, you know?
But to answer your question, I think
honest.
It's great now that I'm more established than I was when I was starting off. So maybe I don't have to do as much, some of the starting up stuff as I do, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something I think about, but it's also figuring out a balance, right? And a harmony between doing those things and doing the dad things and being married and making sure that like I understand the responsibilities and expectations of all those, right? And so sometimes that's saying no to stuff DJ wise because I've got other commitments, right? With the family that I got to make sure I take care of, right? And just being cognizant of that, right?
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of a long-winded or a corny answer, but like just thinking about it, right? Like, or like knowing I've got to take the kids to school a couple days a week. So like if I have a gig that night before, I got to get up and do it, right? And I do it.
And these aren't like, you know, 11 p.m. This is like sometimes you're probably working till like 2 a.m. later because, you know, bars close at what, 2 a.m. up here? Man, I haven't been out that late in a long ass time.
2:45 is usually everybody out.
Jeez, I have not.
2:45 is when stuff closes?
Well, everybody has to be. Yeah.
I mean, there's laws. Yeah.
No drinks past 2:45?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel like it used to be 2:00. Did that change when?
Well, it depends on
where.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess that's a good
Who,
point.
what, where, why, and when.
Man, that's just I haven't been out. So how is that?
But yeah, to that point, like, but also like a couple years ago, like my emphasis shifted from bar stuff into private stuff and into my own stuff, right?
Gotcha.
Where I have more control over that. And the money's a little different. So you can say yes to things and no to certain things, right?
Right.
And also,
a
I
little
think,
flexibility.
yeah, big picture, you're thinking about like, I mean, where do I want to be as a DJ? What do I want to achieve? What kind of gigs do I want? What's going to help me build in that direction? You know, for me, I didn't want to just be haphazardly taking gigs just to stay busy, right? Like, I kind of want to figure out a direction.
Right.
First, sustainability, right?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. You want to keep doing this.
So how does, one thing that comes up in my mind, and I think we've even talked about this maybe years ago, is kind of being, you're essentially self-employed now. And the biggest deterrent, especially with a wife and kids, and I think I already know this answer for you, but is when it comes to like insurance and all those things with self-employment, I think is the biggest deterrent for most people.
Yeah.
And so I believe your wife, I think last time we talked, had that, but how did you solve that whole thing?
Yeah,
Because that's
I'm
Kyle's actually like,
I'm trying to figure out.
he's
how
trying
to.
he's asking because he wants to know.
Yeah.
So, there's 3 ways to get insurance, right? Your employer does it.
Right.
Like, I'm going HR mode on you guys here, right?
Please
Your
do.
spouse has it.
It's called Go Fix Yourself. We're trying to learn here.
Yeah,
people.
or you get in the marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, one of those 3 or you go without, right?
Mhm.
And so it's figuring out kind of what I'll get
Needs.
granular here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and 2, like how much money you're making self-employed and what that looks like in the marketplace, right? So Senator Lisa Murkowski, I know she listens to the podcast. Guys, right?
We're getting her on.
Let's, like,
We've
I
been
think
trying to get her on.
the
honestly.
opportunity to get more affordable healthcare for self-employed people.
Right.
Alaska's the most expensive, right? So
Yeah.
like, I would love to see, there's different strategies to do that, but it's complicated, obviously. But like, those are the things that I think would encourage more people to be entrepreneurs, because
For
that
sure.
is such a roadblock, right?
Yeah.
Like that worry about like, what am I going to do? Because it's one worry to be like, am I going to be able to make enough money to survive? Another, it's like, what happens if I get sick? What happens if I get hurt?
Right.
Broken
Yeah.
arm.
I know that. Well,
Kid
that's
breaks an arm.
that's Kyle's go-to, because like, we've talked about like, what would we do if we both worked, full time on this or something else. And then Kyle's like, well, I can't, like, I like my job, but I also like have the insurance.
Yeah.
And so it's like, that's a real big deterrent. And so I'll be right there. So if you work with Lisa Murkowski on like getting this through, I'm like, I'll be right there. I'll make you guys videos or whatever you need. Like, that's something I think that would be really cool to see for Alaska.
To be clear, I'm not working with Lisa on it, but like between her and Senator Sullivan. And
she's
Bethel Sola,
listening.
like
To
our
be
Alaska
clear, yeah,
congressional
he's
delegate,
not
like,
working.
I think they understand that's a priority for entrepreneurs.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like 1,000,000% there'd be so many more people that would forego a salary to pursue something they love.
Sure.
But you cannot, it's very hard to override that risk of somebody, just a simple injury costing you 6
Right.
figures of hospital bills,
Right.
if
Yeah,
not
that's right.
more. And it's just like, I can't get over that. I'm such a type A analytical person where it's like, yeah, all it takes is one thing and
Yeah.
we're done, essentially, as a family.
Yeah, man, I'm a Virgo. I'm right there with you.
Yes. And so
Are we all Virgos? Yeah, we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we work so well
we're birthday
together.
brothers.
Yeah, we are.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of 3 text messages I get every birthday
It's like,
from somebody else that has a birthday with me. They're like, "Happy birthday, brother."
Yeah.
I
You're
get,
right there.
I don't get any text messages.
That's true.
Just kidding. Okay, cool. So, you're an entrepreneur, you're a DJ, you do all this stuff, you're working with your kids, you're playing with your kids, you're being a dad to your kids.
Yeah, let's just call beat a dad. Like, it sounds like when you start with like,
For me,
it's another job
for
that I
me,
hate.
for me with no kids, it's another job, dude. It was funny. I watched like this interview or like a TikTok video came up, and it was like Seth Rogen, and he's just like, and they were like, "Why don't you have kids?" And he's like, "Because it's like one thing, like a whole other thing I'm not doing,
Yeah.
and it like leaves room for me to do all this other thing."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, huh. Okay, yeah. So I mean, for me, like being a dad
Talk
seems
to your kids. Be around your kids.
yeah. Buy stuff for your kids. I'm sure it's rewarding in its own way, but I mean, for me, it's like, oh, that's another scary thing, right?
sure.
But we don't need to get into that. But so you're getting into jobs. Are you just like fully focused on getting jobs? What's my summer going to look like? What's this? Like, are you like, for me, I guess in my head, sometimes I can get like focused, on like, okay, I'm working on this project. I got this. Okay.
Mhm,
I'm going to take a little vacation and this,
Yeah.
or are you just like, chill back, relax. And like, what are you doing during that time too?
Yeah.
I'm really curious.
I'm definitely not Mr. Chill, right? I'm thinking about stuff and I'm trying to be, and I read this book where it talked about, like inside of every entrepreneur, there has to be 3 personalities, right? There has to be the worker bee, the manager, and the big picture thinker, right?
Oh, yeah.
So trying to make sure that I'm not so in the weeds on being a worker bee and DJ and that I don't have time to think about managing and next steps and then big picture stuff, right? Like dreaming up a party that I want to give myself 6 months or a year or more runway to get it done, right? So getting out in front of it and thinking about the parts that needs.
Yeah.
And that helps me stay engaged in it all, right? Because there's all these different challenges and things to think about. And I love that about it, right? Because it's like I can do all these different things and then I can go play records and et cetera.
Yeah. And you're really digging like the process of it again, getting back into the groove of things.
Yeah.
You're like, this is my time. This is where I shine, baby.
Well, it's partly ego, right? Like, to keep it 100, like to think about like, here's something I'm going to dream up and I'm going to execute it. And I'm going to execute it the way I want. And people are going to like it, right? Yeah. Like, so that's very edifying to have a vision, bring it to reality the way you want, and then have it be well received, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. We're always like, we want to build something that like, whatever anybody says, there is a little bit of ego involved because everybody loves building something that other people enjoy seeing or consuming or whatever. So that little part is always, I think, a guilty feeling to some extent where you're just like, I don't mind when people love what I've created or done, but it feels like you're not supposed to say that almost. But I don't know if you feel that way. But it's also,
in my head, when you were just explaining that, like, I was like, I put myself into those shoes of yours, and I'm like, I got stressed. I got anxiety. If I was like DJ Spencer Lee and I was putting on an event, I'm like, so how do you, that's another thing, like, how do you deal with that anxiety, that stress, the whole shebang?
Yeah. I think it's about understanding your expectations for yourself, right? And understanding your own limitations and finding people who can be allies, and whether that's vendors that can do things you can't and other people to support your vision, right?
Yeah.
And so my thing is like, I know I'm not going to be at all. I would drive myself crazy. And what would really kill me is like, it wouldn't be what I want if I try to do it all, right? Because I don't have capacity. Right. So who can I find that understands my vision, and how can I work hard enough to generate the money to pay those people what they want so that they're on the team and they're excited to be there and they're excited to work towards the same thing, and then we get it all done, right?
Yeah. But there's a little bit of stress before that though. It's like coming up with the event. Are people going to want to do this?
Yeah.
Selling tickets, and then like I've been there, like I did one concert in my entire life. And
we talked.
There's only one reason why I have only done one DJ performance, and it wasn't a performance.
The Cupid Shuffle remix.
The wrong Cupid Shuffle remix.
Were you trying to spin stuff on your laptop?
How many remixes are there? I went on, it was iTunes. It was like when you could download music. There was no Spotify, and of course I downloaded the wrong one, and I had paid $1.99 for it. And then there's only one concert I put on, one event, because it was like, but the whole aspect of like spending someone else's money, it wasn't mine.
Sure.
Thankfully, we had a money bag.
OPM.
We had money bags. That's what I call them.
What is OPM?
Yeah, it was OPM.
Other people's money.
Yeah. Okay.
You can tell we've never had it. So
we need to go fix ourselves. And then but like it was the stress of like tickets. It was the stress of marketing, and like this was before Instagram kind of took off, before it was like a big marketing tool, and so we were using Facebook a lot.
Sure.
And we were making YouTube videos, and it's like like you were saying, like that's a very creative thing to do, and it gets a mind turning, like, okay, here's an issue, we want to solve, be here, and like maybe let's do this and let's do this and let's do this. I think that's why, like, you were like, hey, let's do a video together.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of like, okay, yeah, and it's like being creative kind of does fuel that side, I guess, of things.
Sure.
But I'm just, the stress of stuff, and then on top of performing and then emceeing the whole thing, every event you do, it's like, whew, it's a lot from outside looking in,
Yeah, I think, well, two things. Like one, I think about scale, right? And how you learn lessons along the way. So you don't want to go from zero to the Alaska Airlines Center, right? You want to go from zero to a Thursday night, then to a Friday night, then to a
Right.
Saturday
I
night,
see what you're
then
saying.
to a bigger venue, right? And you learn lessons along the way, and you learn who you can trust along the way, and you learn what works, and then you're just building and growing to the degree you're comfortable and like risk and like believe. You start believing in yourself more and more the more momentum you have.
Sure.
And to be clear, that doesn't mean that like it can all just go away and you try to do something and the weather's not right or something else is happening, right? But like those things will give you confidence that you're making the right decisions, right?
Right.
And also will tell you, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe I have the nerves or I don't have the skill set or whatever, right? No shots. But like, so that's that part. And then for me, the other thing is like, you know, I could do to the same degree we all can, whatever I want to do, right?
Mm.
So what's fulfilling? And what's fulfilling for me, like I said, is doing that vision. What's fulfilling for me is getting on stage and playing records and seeing people dance with their family and be like, yo, that was fun. We did that. Thank you. You know, or people tell me, I'm so glad it's back. And it's like, dope. That's why I do
Rewarding.
this, right?
Yeah.
And so like that makes it all worthwhile. And, you know, when I
Yeah.
reflect on that and also like in the moment, just doing it and just having fun. Like I like being on stage and being a performer, right? I like coming up with something and executing it where people are like, I can't believe you thought of that. Not that, again, my ideas are particularly revolutionary, but
Yeah.
they're well executed. So like,
Yeah, and you have a vision for stuff too. And I think that's another thing too, is like you said the 3 entrepreneurs inside
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah.
You shine at each one of them.
oh,
I mean, that's what I'm just like, you know, as a friend, but also like from the outside looking in, like I was saying, is like you compartmentalize really well. You know what I mean? Is that the right word?
That is a word.
I know, but is it the right one?
maybe delegation. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's just like, but you have a big vision, you have a big execution, and then you do it. You do the thing.
Thank you.
So it's kind of fun to watch, you know.
Yeah. When I look at you and I think of your background in journalism and all these things, I always kind of think of like the chicken or the egg. Like, do you feel that you were kind of born, even as a youngster, into kind of like entrepreneurship, like I'm going to do my own thing? Or do you feel like your love of DJing kind of like made you develop the skills that you have? Because the way you've always been somebody I felt like I could text at any time and be like, what do you think about like self-employment insurance is the one that I think we talked about the most, but or just like marketing or like going through establishing an LLC. You know, I feel like I could ask you anything. And so a lot of times there's just some people that feel like they were born to kind of be in that role. But then you also find people, which I kind of feel like you're probably a hybrid in some sense, but like you found a passion and then you realized I have to learn how to make this a business kind of idea.
Yeah.
So what do you feel like you are?
That's certainly true. And I appreciate that. And like, I think part of that is like, nobody gets where they are by themselves, right?
Sure.
So I've had people who have taken time to give me advice or lessons learned or things like that. So like anytime somebody asks me that, I'm happy to share like whatever, you know, with the caveat that I don't know everything, but like, this is what's worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think early on when I was DJing, like I remember getting up and like looking at my calendar and like I didn't have anything on it and like feeling like physically sick to my stomach because I'm like, this is it. Like if I blow this shot, I'm not going to be able to do it again.
You only get one shot, dude. Do not miss your chance to blow.
Jeez. Great.
Wow.
That could be a song.
Stephen, I think somebody's at do we just get him for the rest of the podcast? Count me and you.
Get him.
But like the thing I tell myself is like, you have to do the unfun stuff to do the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's been kind of like the paradigm that I look through things like playing records is easy. That's fun. Right. Like doing invoices, doing contracts, that's not fun. Like I want to do the fun stuff. I'm gonna eat my vegetables.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like these are the things I need to do. So
man, I'm really bad at eating my vegetables. Not like I love vegetables to eat actually, but like I mean like
Are you talking metaphorically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm saying the way he was saying it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like I think that's where I do not shine as an entrepreneur is like I just like to do the fun stuff and then I'm like
daily tasks.
finances and you know reconciling and taxes. I'm just like and then you know so I mean do you because we've actually talked about this.
Sure.
This is another thing too. You know, and it's funny because like you were saying this I'm going down another rabbit trail. Bunny trail.
rabbit hole.
Yeah. Those two.
But you know, even on Twitter, you're the guy who's always like entrepreneur stuff, right? You have this brain. Like I said, you do really well in those 3 compartments. But like, I don't know, what's advice you would give, especially to me, where it's like, I absolutely, and it's easy. Reconciling is easy to do, And I've learned it now, Rulian, my accountants, because
Shout
of
out,
you.
Shout out, yeah. Caitlin said, yeah, let's go.
I'm awful at it, and they hate me for it because they're like, hey, Steven, when are you going to do it? I'm just like, but I look at it like such a freaking chore, and I do not want to do it. I usually am like, I will pay you guys more money. Like, do it for me. Like, so how do you work through that?
Yeah.
As a creative?
I think one of the things that like I think about all the time is like what I think inside all of us, like no matter if it's entrepreneurship or life or a relationship, like we know the things we need to do, right? And often they're the things we're most afraid of. I'm going to go Oprah on you.
Please
for
do.
a minute, right?
Please do.
So like, you know what you need to do in your heart of hearts.
Mhm.
Like, are you going to do it? Right? Do you have to do it? Right? And the other thing I think about that maybe is a little more like a mellow version of that. It's like, let's say all of a sudden you got an assistant.
Mhm.
What's the stuff you would ask that assistant to do? The things you don't want to do, right? That you're putting off, right? Make a list for your assistant and go, this is what I'm doing today. These are the things I know I need to do. I've been putting off because I don't feel like they're worth my time. I'm going to get them done. Or hire an assistant.
Work out 30 minutes.
But like, right?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, 100%.
You know you
have a
do
whole
taxes.
list.
You need, just figure out how to convince yourself to do them.
I like that idea of writing it out and like visualizing, because I think that's another thing too. It's like there might be like 3 things I don't want to do, but it seems like this astronomical, like, I always, whenever I think about something hard, I always visualize it as a mountain. And I'm always like, I don't want to climb up this mountain. I'd rather have someone else, pull me up it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, honestly.
No, I mean, I get
it's a good, I just came up with it actually, but no, I didn't.
I think you're the first person to talk about something tedious as a mountain.
But I think so. But I mean, like, I think writing it out in my head, I was just like, oh man, like 3 things.
Yeah.
Oh, that actually makes it easier. I never thought about that.
Well, I mean, how much of what we do is mind games, right? With ourselves. Like for me, I think, make that list. And it's like, there's 2 things on this list I really want to do. I'm going to do these 3 I don't want to do first. Right. I mean, that's easy.
So you always are like bad news before good news?
Got to take your medicine, man. Got to eat your vegetables. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like what you were alluding to earlier. And I've told this as my best piece of marriage advice to everybody that gets married is like, to do what you want to do in life generally means you have to keep the wife and the family happy or intact.
Right.
And so Stephen and I have talked about this. Is like, I do a lot of golf. I go trips, all this stuff. But one thing I always make sure to do is to make sure my wife never says like, no, that's not a good idea.
Right.
And by doing that, I have to do a lot of stuff maybe that I don't want to do. Like you're saying, is these things like, well, I better, do all the dishes or do these things to make sure that I'm holding my end of the household up. And it's not the fun things to do, but it's kind of for the bigger picture. So I get to do the stuff I want to do.
Right.
And so like you're saying is you're got to take eat your vegetables essentially. And so I think it's just really convincing yourself that what you want to do, Stephen, is to make more videos means that you have to do some of these things in order. Because if you don't do those things, then this thing that you love to do may end up going away, like at the end of the day.
I'm just going to hire an assistant.
Well,
I'm just going to have him drag me up the mountain.
and if I could too, I mean, empathy 101 is putting yourself in someone else's shoes, right?
Right.
So not just like thinking of like these things as obligations. Like if I'm my wife and she's me, like, and this asshole wants to go golfing again, like what is my expectation about what should better happen, right?
For sure.
And I think, and then too, like, Stephen, if somebody came to you and they described your situation to you, like what kind of advice would you give them? Like, I think that's another way to look at it too, right? Like, and you'd be like, do it, do what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
So, or maybe you give them more, but like, that's another way to look at it. Like,
I don't know what advice I would give someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all good at giving advice to other people. Like you tell me to jump all the time, right? For like self-employment, because it's not easy, but like you see the clear picture.
Right.
When you're looking at somebody else's life, but then when you turn it on yourself, you're like, well,
100%.
Those debits and credits are confusing.
It's easier to take yourself out of the picture because you have nothing riding on it. Like I have nothing riding on you making that jump.
If I fail like completely, you're like, I would actually.
But
but
I wouldn't let that happen. No, there's no way.
Buy you a breakfast burrito.
Yeah.
Kyle and his family are homeless. Like you can come live with me if you want.
Kyle, I know I told you to do that, but that was. Why are you listening to me? Jesus.
I am an idiot, dude. Oh, man. Well, I think that's really good wisdom. Because remember that time it was like we went to the launch company, Ben Kelly, who's going to be on the podcast next
Ben's
week.
a homie, also a birthday homie. And
Yeah,
also
Virgo.
K10, yeah.
Wait, is he 26 too?
I think he's the 28th.
Yeah.
Oh, no
My
way.
anniversary.
Yeah.
Dang.
There we go.
Yeah, where DJ Spencer Lee
Where with the
actually
law,
was your DJ
Yeah.
for your wedding, which
Wild
was a
time.
beautiful wedding.
that was something. Yeah.
It was something I just remembered after the wedding too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a wild thing. We can get into another podcast. But where were we going with this? Oh, Virgos. Okay, Ben Kelly is on next week. And so you also have a really good network, and you're really good at like nurturing those, relationships.
Yeah.
Those business relationships, but also friendships.
Yeah.
I've when I was actually at the boardroom, which we are, we record out of, and I had an office here for a while. I was always driving downtown, going out to eat or, making meetings or whatever. I always saw you with someone from here or someone out and about, and you guys were just walking around because you were working downtown.
Yeah, I worked downtown for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I always saw you running around, having meetings. That's another thing I'm curious about because like, I don't know if you guys ever feel this, but like since 2020, I've gotten way more recluse, way more introverted, way more like, I'm gonna make people come to me. Like, but you're really good at getting out there. So what's some more advice? I'm asking for advice for myself again.
This has turned into self-help.
I know, right? Yeah.
Help us.
What is something that like people can do to, just foster those relationships like
Shed
you do
the
really well?
Weight that we have of not wanting to go out and meet people.
I think for me, I'm an extrovert, so I love talking to people. In my background, in addition to journalism, is communication, right? And so I was on the speech and debate team at UAA, but I just love being around other people, and I enjoy talking to people and listening to people and finding out.
Yeah.
But I think the number one tip is don't be a sycophant, right? Like when you're talking to somebody, don't come in with an agenda where like you're trying to get something from them, because people can tell. Like if you come in honestly and like, I'm curious about you, I want to hear about you, like I'll have a conversation with you. Like I think that's how you build relationships, right? Like
I love
at the risk of stating the obvious, right? Like, and you develop like, oh, you understand somebody's interest. And then it can be, hey, I was talking to so-and-so and they're into this too. Have you talked to so-and-so, right? And then you're able to connect people that maybe not know each other. And I think it's valuable. There's value in that, right? Like, I think that's something that I think about, right?
Yeah, matchmaker.
Yeah.
In a sense.
I mean, it's kind of forced. Like, ideally, like, it's not contrived, right? Because everybody can tell somebody who's trying to ingratiate themselves and like, hey, remember that time? And like, you're like, I don't want to hang out with you if that's like.
Yeah, Spinard prom video that we did together.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I think if you're a good person and you're in it for genuine reasons,
Right.
like, it'll happen. Right?
Yeah.
Like, but like, and sometimes it doesn't. And like, that's cool that I know this person, this is the dynamic with them and this is their relationship. And I'll put that kind of energy into it when I want. And other people are different, right? Like, I think that's kind of, you have to think about it. But like I said, for me, I love going out to lunch with people. I love chopping it up with people, going to coffee and like figuring out what they're up to. Cause that gives me more ideas,
Right.
I can bounce ideas off there. I hear what them up to. Oh, that made me think of this. Right.
Yeah. You're really good at that. I'm even like, I mean, you were one of my first like business lunches.
Oh yeah.
I was like, ooh, I get to use my business card. And then, it was just, I remember we went to Kamagora, or is it?
Kumagoro?
Yeah. It was my first time there. Now I love it. Okay, enough about business, enough about asking you advice. I'm really curious, like, what's your, like, we'd like to do read, listen, watch. What do you do
when you're not a DJ?
When you're not a
Not a
DJ,
dad.
when you're not a dad,
Not a husband.
not a husband. I'm just going to repeat everything he says. Like, what are you reading?
Not here.
What are you reading, listening, or watching?
Yeah. I read the newspaper every day. I love that.
Physical?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's great because
Old school.
yeah. Well, I mean, I worked at the Daily News, right?
Yeah.
So, and like I grew up reading the paper, and I think there's just something I really enjoy it, like scanning headlines. And then also it's a fun dynamic with my kids because it's like getting them to read headlines, right? You know what I mean? And like, or talk to them about articles. And so I love that opportunity to do that and engage them like that and make sure they know about the news and just have conversations about things. So
The whole, are you a whole paper guy? Like the whole thing?
fold it right. Yeah. Yeah. Do it. You know what I mean?
Because I mean,
Wait, you read the whole paper every day?
Well, the
you
bulk
scan
of
it. Yeah.
Damn.
Scan it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't read every word, but I mean, like, damn, okay.
I used to go to the sports section
Yeah.
to check the Mariner scores,
Mhm.
and then I'd go to the comics, and I just Whew,
Yeah, I would go to
through
the
all that.
comics, and then I would always go to like the creative section or whatever that was called, arts section. And then
See what shows.
Anchorage Press, that was my thing. I would like make sure like to look at Anchorage Press every Friday. Rest in peace.
Yeah, it's very. There's a lot of memories with like the newspapers.
Yeah.
Seeing my dad.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go every time I'd hear the front door open. He'd always go pull the newspaper off from the porch, and then he would read through it and kind of leave the sports section out for me. And it's just like there's a lot of memories there with the physical paper that we've kind of lost now. Which kind of, I mean, not everybody is lost, but most people don't have a newspaper anymore physically.
So you start your day with a newspaper and a coffee.
Cup of
I'm assuming
coffee. A robe, I assume.
Yeah, there's the
Royal blue.
Kimono.
Very short.
Yeah. Kimono and
Too
slippers.
So yeah, I do that. And then I grew up reading magazines because for me, magazines were the way to find out about music, cool things, like pre-internet, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I used to just go to Borders and like before I even drank coffee, right? I'm getting a chai and I'm at Borders and I'm like, I'm grabbing these 4 music magazines,
Sitting in the cafe.
this German graffiti magazine, or just
Yeah.
like weird stuff that I'm not gonna pay for. Yeah, I'm gonna read.
I
Right.
remember that. Yeah.
I'm gonna find out about albums. Maybe I'll go upstairs and buy it, right? Or like, you know what I mean? Like that's how you found out about things. And again,
Did you say Borders?
Yeah. The one
Damn, I miss Borders.
Yeah.
I like Barnes and Noble.
right when you
but-
said upstairs, I was like, oh, board.
Yeah. That's what made me click too.
Yeah.
Actually, I was like, I do miss Borders.
so that was it. And so I still read a lot of magazines and I have magazine subscriptions and I love the visual elements in the magazines and
What's your go-to magazine?
So it's kind of corny probably, but like I love Monocle, which is like
I love Monocle.
great current
That's my
affairs magazine.
go-to airplane
Yeah.
magazine. I
Yeah.
always have to get Monocle.
Yeah.
Oh, and those things are thick
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I love those. I always feel so much smarter too. What's another one
Monocle.
subscription you got?
I really like Courier is another magazine in a similar vein.
Okay.
I'll just read travel magazines like Afar or Condé Nast. I'll read that.
Cool.
I'll read GQ.
Absolutely.
I'll read Bon
Gotta.
Appetit, So like
Man of many tastes all over the board.
yeah.
Travel, food, music, wine, business.
But what about like books? Is there books, or are you just more of a visual slash
Sure,
what
I
you're
do
reading?
Books. I'll do Audible sometimes when I'm driving. Right.
Yeah.
And so what do I mean, anything from business books to Ben Hundreds wrote a book called This Is Not a T-Shirt, which is like
I
a
love that
book.
book. I loved it.
So I'll do that.
It's one of the 10
like
books
that.
I've read.
Yeah.
Are you kind of burnt out on business books? I feel like you're somebody that probably like went hard for a while on reading everything about businesses, and I feel like we both have read
Yeah.
a ton of like, in the hustle phase of
Sure.
your journey. You're like, I gotta consume everything, and now when I see somebody reading like how to win people and influence, I'm like, freaking loser. You were a rookie, okay? But I'm so burnt out on like the same message that it feels like is persistent in most business books.
You just gotta hustle.
Well,
And the magazines scratch that itch.
Right,
I
yeah,
think,
it's
because
something.
more than anything, it's like when you see somebody like highlighting a cool business that's creative, like that's like, okay.
Yeah,
They
it's
come
different.
up with that idea, how do they execute it like that? That to me replaces like,
Yeah, the lame stuff that you read about.
Yeah.
What about, obviously music is something that you're listening to constantly. What do you like? You got when you come home from a long gig, is it straight to bed, or do you like to, have a cocktail, watch a show kind of thing? Or
Usually I'm too tired to do that.
I was going to say,
but
you don't need to check out for a few minutes, watch The Office. I feel like is something I would do.
my kids love The Office.
Really?
So like I get a little bit through them, but like I've never been a big Office guy. Like
Really?
I get it.
They
yeah.
love The Office?
Oh yeah.
Man, that's interesting because
So they are really smart.
I'm telling you, they are.
I mean,
dude.
I'm a little biased, right? But
Yeah.
yes, I think they do all right.
Man, that's crazy because like I think even like me as like, whenever the first season of The Office came out, I was like, not for me.
Yeah.
The first season was like still as cringy to me.
I had that on my iPad or iPod video.
Yeah, I remember those.
And I was
Wow.
watching that at Northrim Bank when I was 20 years old on my break on my iPod video.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just
Jeez.
dated yourself,
Yeah, I don't care.
grandpa.
I'm old.
My
Whatever.
kids are now on Bob's Burgers. They're off The Office.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But what does Spencer watch?
I like I'll do kind of like visually I want something that's kind of cool, so I like Foundation, right, on Apple TV.
On
You
Apple
guys
TV,
watch that?
I haven't.
Isaac Asimov?
I've watched the first like few episodes, and then I got on something else. So I haven't. Should I go back to it?
I mean, do you like science fiction?
I love science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's Isaac Asimov. So I mean,
Yeah. So I mean, but it does get better. Like, well, not better, but it's just like it kind of keeps your attention. For me,
Does it get better than when it sucked? When
I
it first
really
started?
don't remember. I watched it right when it first came out,
Yeah.
and then like I think something else came out that I was like, oh, I like this more, and then I watched it and I forgot about Foundations. So is it worth going back and like watching? What is it? 2 seasons, 3 seasons
yeah,
now?
season 2 just finished.
Okay,
I mean, that's a question only you can answer, Stephen.
I'm just kind
That
of
is true.
curious.
I mean, I liked it, but like, yeah.
You're not watching old reruns of like Mad Men? I feel like that would be
I never finished Mad Men. I did like
Really?
Mad Men, yeah.
Yeah. That
Uh-huh.
seemed like a show we would have connected over
Yeah,
quite a
yeah,
bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Don Draper.
I love the first couple seasons.
Yeah, the ending. Yeah, it gets
I mean, it was a good look into like 1960s suave,
advertising.
advertising Madison Avenue.
Misogyny.
Yeah, big time misogyny, big time like sexism, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's why I hated it.
It was a glimpse. I'm a sucker. I don't think I've ever said this on a podcast. I love the year 1964. I think if I could have been like in my 20s
Because of the earthquake?
No, actually, no. It's actually because of the World's Fair in New York City.
Oh, okay.
Because like Disney, that was like one of the biggest, things. And so anyway, we're getting off a tangent, but it's like, I love the 1960s, especially in New York City, and Mad Men was like my thing. I was like, oh, this is the show I love so much.
Mm.
And then it got to the 70s and I was like, over it, don't care anymore. So you're not really leaving much time for fun stuff, for just Spencer time?
No, I mean, it definitely used to be like, what are your hobbies? And I was like, I don't have any, right?
My business.
Birds.
Yeah.
I'm a bird guy.
You are a bird guy now.
I do love birding with my boys.
How did you
Is
get
it
in?
ornithology?
Yeah, ornithology, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
How did you get into
yeah.
birding?
I think during the pandemic, my father-in-law knows enough about birds that when he was with my boys, he would talk to them about it, right? And one of my sons is kind of like a completionist, right? Like, so he wants to know, kind of like me, like about everything, right? So he would get like a trifold bird guide, you know what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
With all the birds in it. And he's like, he would just study it. And so it's like when he was out, like he wanted to see all those birds, right? And so it was just a fun challenge. Like I mean, Kyle, you're probably the same way. Like you look for ways to engage your kids where they're at, right?
Mhm.
And like, if this is what you're into, I'm going to figure out how to get into it so we can talk about it and we can go out and do it. And like, did you see that? That's cool. Oh, I saw this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And like find cool ways to engage them and challenge them. And they got into bird and I was like, let's go. I don't know anything about it, right? I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn along with you guys. And then like, of course, the easiest trick in the world is like, I want you to teach me about it, right? So they're like, well, Dad, this bird is this, right? And then you're both learning and like they're engaged. And yeah, it's dope.
It is really cool. And it's cool to see the three of you. I mean, like I said on that walk, it was cool to see the three of you just like really go to town on like, that's that. And they're like, and I think your boys even were like, Steven, do you know what that is? And I was like, no.
They're
like, you idiot.
I hope it's a pigeon. Because
chickadee? Is that a swan?
Yeah.
No, Dumbo.
Yeah, the birding thing I feel like is something that's like sneakily been like on the rise because I have several friends that are like really into bird photography now, and I was just like, that's it's not a weird niche, but it is like a niche that like kind of, you could take a picture of anything really. Like, what is it about birds? Does Alaska have some unique like birds that are?
I mean, we've got good biodiversity in terms of birds, right? I think for me, the analogy I like to use is like, think about like when you turn 16 and like, you're like, I want to know every car on the road, right?
Okay,
like,
yeah.
Like that's a Camaro. And like how exciting it is to be like, yo, that a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so birds are like that too. You're like, can I catch one in the wild? And like, yo, that's dope. And like, I know enough when I see it. Oh, is that what that is? Like, yo, check it out. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's fun. And then like building in trips around it and like just little, because my guys are boys. Like we need to be moving.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're destroying the house. So it's like, let's go for a walk and we're going to look for birds along the way.
Yeah.
Right. And like, how can I backdoor exercise into like, we're going out. We're going to Eagle River Nature Center. We're going to go like do a trail. Right. We're going to go to the boardwalk or Westchester or whatever. Right. And so we do all that kind of stuff. And like, that's fun ways to build time around it. Right.
Yeah.
It's like a good destination.
Nice.
I got my Hawkwatch water bottle.
Ooh.
Hawkwatch is a thing like all these birds migrate out of Alaska. When they come back in, they take this like highway, right, of this thermal. So you can go to this spot in the road and they just come over your head,
Really?
Is that what
Yeah.
the big year? Is that what, because the big year, that movie was like Steve Martin and like
Owen Wilson. Yeah.
Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
They went to Alaska and part of it. Was that what they were doing up here?
No, Hawkwatch happens everywhere that birds migrate, right? So,
okay.
But what they were doing, they were going out in the Aleutian chain,
Oh,
and there's birds out there in the chain
you
that
just
you don't
never
see
see
in
it.
other parts. And then also there'll be these crazy like weather scenarios that'll happen where birds will blow inland from the water. So like if you're out on those islands, they're like, we got to land, we can't fly in this stuff. Boom, and then you see some cool birds you wouldn't have seen.
Do you find yourself getting giddy now when you're like, oh my gosh, boys, guys, look, it's the blue crowned thimble woodcock.
Yeah. I think that is a bird.
I mean, it's fun, right? It's
Yeah.
like a fun challenge like anything else. And it's like seeing a cool,
Yeah,
like we bug out when we see a Lamborghini, which happens like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Every
It's in a
other
blue
year.
moon. Yeah.
Like we'll see birds or like we'll hear them or like we know we're looking for them. Like it's fun. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
I dig that.
You got a sweet bird shirt yet?
I do. Yeah. I got a
Ooh.
couple sweet bird shirts.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
We're
full
gonna
on
need- we're gonna
birder,
need
baby.
some pictures of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
Man, well, we appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk to us about everything that you're doing and give us advice on how to live our lives better. So what's coming up next? So let's talk about Jams for Fams.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like your big event coming up.
Yep.
And so tell people about that really quick again.
Sure. Like I said, all ages family dance party. So something that's fun for kids and parents. The next one is Sunday, October 22nd, and that's our Halloween one. It's a double session. There's a 10 to noon and there's a 1 to 3. And it's just an opportunity to go and hang out and have fun and move around and dance with your kids and be somewhere, have a pizza, have some beer, and,
Yeah.
do it. And so I think, it's like visually it's fun, but it's not too crazy overstimulating. It's like a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 hours.
And you have like a crawl section for
Oh,
little
yeah.
babies, and you said you had the photo booth, and you have the DJs, and you have like a ton of gifts, prizes to give away.
Yep.
So I mean, like it's a blast. And I was a 27-year-old man.
They had their eyes on you.
Yeah, I was like,
What is
I was doing something. I was working there, guys. I wasn't just hanging out. Okay, so and then October 22nd, and then the next one after that would be the Christmas one, Pajama Jam,
Yeah. December 3rd.
December 3rd. Cool.
I gotta check my calendar. But yeah, that's the Pajama Jam. And yeah, like you said, there's a crawl zone for little kids where I have carpets. You can put them down. The balcony's open if you want to go chill out.
Yep.
We got photos. Like, yeah, it's like going out to like a concert maybe on a smaller scale with your kids, and it's like family friendly.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well,
What do you need to plug in terms of people can find you, websites they need to
Yeah.
go to?
I mean, I'm djspencerlee.com. I'm at DJ Spencer Lee on everything.
you still on that Twitter game?
I love Twitter. Like
You still on
the
Twitter?
journalist in me loves Twitter. Yeah, so
Oh.
I'm still on it. And
How is it nowadays?
it's weird out there.
kind of-
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
You on Threads too?
It's always been weird. I didn't want to do Threads because if you cancel, like they pull your account, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not even gonna do it.
Wait, what?
Like-
you cancel Threads and pull your account, period?
Yeah.
your
I did not know
Instagram's
that.
Done.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow,
I think
Zuckerberg.
it's genius.
I guess.
They got you.
Interesting. Okay, well, so DJ Spencer Lee on everything, djspencerlee.com. And if people want to get tickets for James for Fams,
They're on sale at the Beartooth box office or beartooththeater.net.
perfect.
We're not sold out yet as of this recording, but we're going fast.
I mean, possibly. Hopefully, as when this releases, hopefully it's sold out.
Yeah.
I'm putting that
Next
out,
one.
putting it out to the
Here's
universe.
the next one.
Well, man, thank you so much for
Fun hanging out with
taking
you
the
guys.
time. You busy boy.
Always got time for you guys.
Oh,
Always got time for unsolicited advice for you guys.
We need it.
that's why we had you on the podcast. We're like, man, Spencer's a smart
We're
guy.
feeling very stupid.
We need to get him on. I mean, we open up the podcast. We don't know very much, so we have people on to teach us stuff. And you taught us. You fixed us.
We'll see. The proof is in the pudding. We'll see.
All right.
Thanks for tuning in. Kyle and Steven will be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, check out gofixyourselfpodcast.com. And remember to always go fix yourself.